So I will be teaching you this subject, Python programming. Okay, my name is Shiburaj. Now let's quickly begin with what is Python. Okay, now Python is an interpreted high level and general purpose programming language. Okay, now we will be looking at this a bit more in detail. So first of all, there are three main important things that you should understand. First is it is interpreted, high level, and general purpose. Okay. Now, we will be seeing what is interpreted in a later slide. What do you mean by high level is normally whenever we say any programming language, so the computer understands the programming language with the help of byte code or the low level code. Okay. So it is easier for the computer to understand, but the a human being to write this low level code is extremely difficult, right? So that is why uh, we write the code in a high level language, and then using some other software we convert that high level language to a low level language so that the computer can understand. Okay, so this Python language is a high level language. That means it is easier for the human beings to write the program. Now, one more thing, it is commonly understood is Python is a very high level language. That means uh, uh, the way Python is written, it is even more easier for the human beings to understand and replicate the code. So that's why sometimes people call it very high level language. Okay. So we will see why this is called like that when I show you one example. Then the second part is general purpose. Now, why it is called general purpose is, there are many programs or programming languages which are meant for specific purposes. But in case of Python, it can be used for anything and everything. Okay. So I will show you some of the applications in the next slide by which it will be a bit more clearer why Python is called a general purpose programming language. Okay. So before that, let us see who invented Python.
So what is meant by interpreted? आपने क्या बताया?
I will speak about it in the next slide. Okay. That slide I have kept it separate. So who invented Python? It is Guido van Rossum in the year 1991. And you can look at the picture. Now, these are some of the applications which you can build with the help of Python. Okay. Now, basically, the reason why I have included this is not the complete list, but I've included these applications just to show that Python can be used in anywhere. Okay. So, like for example, you can use it for web development. There are libraries like Django and other frameworks that are there which you can use to make web development easy. And in fact, many of the websites I will show you in the next slide, they use Python for making the web application. Okay. Game development, you can use Pygame library to make games. Then scientific and numeric calculations, you can use NumPy, pandas, and all these library. These we are going to cover in this syllabus. So it is used for that. So basically Python is useful not only for programmers, also for data scientists and even mathematicians. They can use Python. Okay, so previously mathematicians used to use MATLAB for doing this, but nowadays there is a open source and free alternative that is very important. Then it can be used for artificial intelligence and machine learning with the help of libraries like Keras, TensorFlow, and scikit-learn. All these libraries can be used for making using machine learning. For desktop GUI, you have take inter library, which you can use to make desktop applications like for your Windows, so, like that. Okay. And in general, you can do software development definitely, because any programming language you can do that. Then you can also do language development. Okay, so that means you with this language you can make new languages. Okay, then operating systems. Okay, so many of the times, you if you have ever installed Linux, you can see the wizard that comes in, that is completely made using Python. Web scraping applications are very nowadays very famous, no, for extracting contents from websites. Then image processing, graphic design, these are some of the applications that can be, you know, some of the places where Python can be used. Okay, now some of the popular apps that are built in Python. Okay, so you must have heard about most of them: Instagram, YouTube, Dropbox, Google, Uber, Facebook, Netflix, Quora, Instagram, Spotify. All these applications are built somewhere or some part or maybe entirely using Python. Okay, so now what makes Python the best of the best? Okay, so uh, first of all, first and most important, it is an open source language. Okay, because if you look at the resemblance with MATLAB, like the paid software MATLAB, you can understand why this is so popular. Okay, first of all, it is open source and free of cost, right? So just free of cost will not help you, because see, at the end when we make some program, we would like to earn something with it. Okay, sometimes it is not always about using the application, but it is also sometimes about selling it, right? So when the licensing terms are not that stringent, then you can create your apps and sell without paying for any licenses, right? So that is the advantage of using open source. And licensing terms are also important. It's a high level language that I've already explained. It is interpreted. Okay, so I will explain this in the next slide. It is both object oriented and functional. Okay, so now usually now functional means you divide your programs into small functions and you can reuse it whenever you want. Okay, and object oriented means you divide your program into classes. Okay, now these two things are like, let's say for example, in C programming you don't have classes, so you divide everything into functions. Okay, whereas in case of Java, everything is a class. Okay, so Python is slightly different. It gives you both the approaches. You can use functional or you can use object oriented. It is completely up to you. Okay, it is portable. Now this is very important, because like in case of C programming, if you write a program in C in Windows, it may or may not run in Linux. Okay, because some certain libraries like conio.h is not there in Linux, right? So for that you will have to rewrite the code, right? But whereas if you write something in Python, the same program will run without any problem in all the operating systems. Okay, it's in this case it is like Java, because Java also has the same feature. Java is also portable. It is extensible and embeddable. Okay, so this particular point is the reason why Python has become very popular. Okay, now before I go to this point, you should if you just do a simple Google search. Okay, so if I just do a simple Google search and if I come down, okay, so you can see the topmost popular programming language right now in 2020 is, sorry, that is last year. Even this year also, it is Python. Okay, so you can see, the salary, the annual salary, and basically this is very popular. Okay, so the reason I have just shown you, because of its very wide applications. Okay, the second most popular language right now is JavaScript. Okay, because JavaScript, thanks to Node.js, also has so many features. Okay, so if at all you already know C and Java, and this semester you'll be learning Python. The next language, if you want to learn, because let's get this straight, you have to learn multiple languages to survive in this current scenario. Okay, so it will be a good idea to learn JavaScript also. Okay, so now then, what is extensible and embeddable, right? So extensible and embeddable means, there are two cases. First is, let's suppose you already have a website or an application built using some other language. Okay, so let's say you have a application built using Java. So now you like Python, right? So you want to use Python in your coding. Okay, but it will be very difficult because rewriting the entire app again using Python is going to be a very big task. Okay, so nobody will do it, right? But the beauty of Python is you don't have to rewrite the entire application. Okay, whatever task you want to do new, you write that in Python and you can use it in other languages. Okay, so that is the best part of extensibility of Python. Okay, second thing is embeddable. Okay, so embeddable means you can embed other language codes inside Python. Okay, so let's suppose you already have a Python app built and you hire a new person who doesn't know Python. He knows, let's say, C programming. So he can write the code in C, and that C program can be converted into a code which can be directly included inside your Python program. Okay, so that is the two most important part, and because of these two features, Python has become very famous, even with apps which are already existing in some other language. Okay. Then finally, it comes the vast collection of libraries. This is the most important part of this particular language. Okay, so this means that anything and everything that you think of, for that there will be a library already available, and it becomes so much easier to use because all the functions, like if you think what to do, how to do image processing, how to detect faces, how to uh, do face recognition, how to detect some other thing, right? You have OpenCV library. You how to do machine learning in Python, you have Keras, TensorFlow, right? So for everything that you think of, there will be some libraries that are publicly available, which you can use, which you can install and create your apps. Okay, so this is the main reason why Python is so famous. Now the final question: what is interpreted versus what is compiled? Okay, now, so what is interpreted versus compiled? And now the reason why I was waiting for this to come is because of the second keyword, that is compiled. Okay, now if you look at C programming or Java programming, if you have ever compiled those programs, okay, so normally what we do when we write a C program or a Java program, we just use the IDE and press a run button or a play button. Okay, but we do not know what is actually happening. Okay, so basically what is happening over there is, if you actually try to run a C program or a Java program, the first thing that you do is compile it. Okay, you compile it, convert into a byte code, and that byte code is what you run. Okay, so there are two steps involved in this. Okay, but when you run it with the help of an IDE, both these two steps are done behind the scenes and you'd never get to see it. Okay. But if you ever try to do it manually through the command line, you will see that you will first have to you will first have to compile the program, whether it is C or Java, then you have to run it. Okay. So that is the basic principle. So those languages are called compiled languages. Okay. But in case of interpreted languages, you don't have to compile it. They are run directly on runtime. Okay, so they are compiled line by line at runtime. So uh, uh, you know the you don't have to wait for it to compile. Okay, So that is the difference between an interpreted language and a compiled language. So examples of interpreted languages are like PHP and uh, this Python, etc. Okay, and compiled languages are C, Java, etc. So now one question arises: if you can run a program without compiling, then wouldn't interpreted languages be better, right? So it it looks like it is better, but it is not. Okay, interpreted languages have a problem. It is that it is run line by line, right? So whereas compiled programs are compiled once and converted into bytecode. Okay, now it's just a common sense that if anything is already easier to understand by the computer, then that will be much more helpful for the computer, right? So in this case, if you look at interpreted versus compiled, the compiled is better for the computer because it is already in a language which computers can understand, right? So that's why running the compiled programs are much more efficient and faster. Okay, whereas interpreted programs are a bit slower than the compiled languages. Okay, but then the advantage is that it is easier to write interpreted languages, okay, like PHP and Python, whereas the same code to write it in compiled languages will take more time. Okay, so that means the definitely the speed matters over here. Okay, and another very important thing is like for example, a compiled language is like C, right? So C is a compiled language, whereas interpreted language like Python is built using C. Okay, so you can understand C is there and there is Python which is built using C. Okay, so it's called C Python. Okay, so definitely at the end C program will be a bit more faster because it is a compiled language, right? So but as I told you, the important thing is how easy is it for us to understand and write, right? So that is where interpreted makes it much more easier, and there are many more things that interpreted languages handle. Now once we look at the example, you will understand that all memory management, all other other unwanted things that we do in C, we need not do in Python. Okay, so that are handled behind the scenes. So that is why interpreted languages are more famous than their original languages. Now let us look at a sample example, and with this you will understand what I am trying to say. Okay, so let's look at a simple program of how to print a hello world in C. Okay, so this is for C language. So you must be familiar with this. So you include stdio, then you start the main, print, and then return 0. So this is the basic function, right? Now let's look at Java. So in Java, we declare a class. Okay, then we start a main function, and then we do system.out.println. Okay, so this is just for printing, right? And just look at now Python, one line, that's it. Okay, so you can see how it makes a difference for the programmer to write the program. Okay, it makes it much easier in Python. So let us begin. So in any programming language, the first thing that you do is set up the environment. Okay, so uh, now usually whenever you learn any other language, uh, the way I teach is slightly different. I would like to give you multiple options by which you can do the same thing, and then I would give you an option to decide which one you like. Okay, so first and foremost, for any programming language, that particular language compiler has to be installed. Okay, so in this case Python has to be installed, right? So let's open this website. So this is the website python.org, right? And to install Python, you just have to go to downloads and click over here. So that will download the setup, right? So you can download it anywhere. So let me just download on my desktop. Okay, so once this download is done, you just have to click on it. And now in my case, I have already installed Python in my computer. So that's why this screen is coming. But in your case, it will be simply install. Okay, so just click on install and just follow it along and just click next, next, next till you reach the end. That is the finish button. Okay, so that will install Python in your computer. Okay, so I'm not going to continue this. Okay, because I don't want to mess up my computer. So I have already installed Python on my computer. So now how to run a Python code. Okay, so you already have uh, Python installed. Now how to check if your Python is installed properly? You just have to open a command line or command prompt. Okay, so there are multiple ways of doing it. You can just go to start and type cmd, so that will open command prompt. Okay, so this is one option, and here you just have to write Python and press enter. If it is installed, you can see the version of the Python that is installed. So in my case, it is Python 3.9.1. Okay, now here, this three arrows. Okay, so this is what is called the Python shell. Okay, this is called the Python shell. Now here you can start writing the code. Okay, so let's say I want to write my first command, that is print hello. Okay, so this is my first command. If I press enter, you can see I get hello at the terminal. Okay, so this is the output that I have received. Okay, now the problem here is the shell is fine, everything is fine, but the program that you write over here is not persisted. Okay, what do you mean by persistence? It means that if you close this terminal, the program is gone. Okay, so that is the problem with the writing the program in the shell. Okay, so what is the next option? So the next option is I will just close this, and the next option is you can use any editor. By editor I mean you can use Notepad or any IDE or anything that you have on your computer. Like it can be a Notepad plus plus, or a Sublime or Visual Studio Code. Anything that you have on your computer, you can use that. So I'm just using a Notepad. Okay, a simple Notepad I'm using. So I will write the first print. Okay, so this is my program print hello. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. So let's do save, and I'm saving it in the desktop. So first of all, you have to do is change the type to all files. Okay, and then over here, let's say hello.py. Okay, so this is the name of the file that I'm putting. So I think I already have a file called hello.py. I will just replace it, and that's it. So my code is saved on the desktop. Let me see, where is it? Hello.py, here it is. Okay, so this is hello.py. Now let us see how to run this code. Okay, now to run this code, we can again go back to cmd command prompt. Okay, now first thing is we have saved the file on the desktop, right? So first step would be to go to desktop. So cd means change directory, cd desktop. Now I am on desktop. Let me do ls. Okay, ls or dir, any command you can do. When you do that, you can see everything that is there on my desktop. So what I'm interested is in this file hello.py. Okay, so now I'm just confirming whether the file is there or not. Okay, so I have confirmed that hello.py is there. Now the only thing left is to run it. So Python. So to run any Python program, you just have to write the name Python, okay, and then the name of the file hello.py. Okay, so if you press enter, you can see your code is executed. Okay, is it clear how to run a Python program? Okay, so I will give you one more example. Okay, so this time instead of using Notepad, I will use something different. So let's use Notepad++. Okay, so this is Notepad++. It is same as Notepad, but with a little bit more, color and all those things, right? So what you can do is you can just write your code over here, right? So print. Okay, so print good morning. So I am writing this. Let's save it. So click save, and let's go to desktop and save. First of all, create. Uh, Let me see. Do I have Python somewhere? Okay, so in case of this, yeah, here I have Python file. So I can do like this. Okay, and let's say morning. Okay, so I've just saved it Python as a Python file morning.py. Okay, so that is what the name I have given, and click on save. So I've written my code, saved it. Only thing to remember is whatever name you give at the end, there should be .py. Okay, and once that is done, I can close it, and let's see if I have, yeah, so I have this code. So this is my code morning.py. So now let us see how to run this. Okay, so for running it, you have to open command prompt cmd. Okay, and then right now you are in this particular folder, c colon users power. Okay, so your first job will be to go to the desktop. Okay, so if I do a simple ls means to list all the files and directories in the current directory. Okay, so let's see what is there inside my current directory. Okay, so in my current directory, you can see there are lots of things, but what I want to do is I want to go into desktop. Okay, so that I can run that particular file. Okay, so to go inside a directory, you use the command cd and desktop. Okay, and now again, if I do ls, that will show me what is inside desktop. So if I run that, you can see there are lots of things, but what I am interested in is good morning, good morning, good morning. Where is good morning? Sorry, morning, right? Morning.py. This is what I'm interested in, right? So once I understand that the file is there in the current folder, then to run it, it is very simple. The command is python, then morning.py. Okay, and press enter. That runs the code. Okay, is it clear? So let's move ahead. So that was using Python. Okay, so whenever you install Python, another software is installed along with it. It is called the IDLE. Okay, so I'm not installing anything extra. It is there already. So IDLE. Okay, so you can see it is saying Python 3.9 64-bit. Okay, so this is called as IDLE. Now this is the IDE provided by the Python software itself. Okay, so if I just open it, you can see it opens this shell. So it is the same shell that we saw in the command line. It is the same thing, but color iska white hai. Bas itna hi difference hai. Okay, so it is the same shell, but the advantage is obviously here you can do print. Now you can see the difference between that shell and this shell. Okay, so this shell gives you a hint as to what command you're trying to type. Okay, so that is the difference between this shell and the command line shell. Okay, so command line shell is completely dumb. Okay, but this is slightly bit more intuitive. Okay, so let me just print hello and check. Okay, so that is working. Okay, so this is another way of doing it. But again, we are interested more in writing the code and persisting it, right? So here, if you write the code and if you close it, everything goes, right? So our next option is go to file and click on new file. So that opens up this. Okay, so this is where you can write your code and save it and then run it over there. Okay, so let me show you. This is a little bit more easier. So let me say print. Okay, so print RCOE, and then next step will be to save it. So to save it, you can go to any directory and save it. So let me go to desktop again and rcoe.py. Okay, and save it. So now I have saved it. Right now, usually you just go to your shell and execute it, but here the option is you can click on run and you can do run module. Okay, so this is just an advantage of using ideally. So you don't have to write the command python space rcoe.py to run it. Okay, so you can directly run it from here, and there is a shortcut also, F5. So if you press F5, that will also run it. You can see what has happened, right? So it has executed my code. So I can run it any number of times. I can come back, I can run it, right? So this gives you a little upper hand, whenever you want to execute it again and again, because whenever we write the actual program, it is not that we write the entire code and run it. We run it at every step and see if there is any error or not, right? So that is why this is also a good alternative. Okay, but still there is one problem. Okay, the problem is you are running the code, you are writing the code in this particular editor, and you're seeing the output at this particular window. Okay, so the windows are different, right? So you have to write over here, see the output over here. This is not that convenient, right? So that is why we are going to look at other softwares which are going to help you a bit better, right? A very famous and popular IDE is PyCharm. Okay, it is very famous, and I also like it. Okay, so I will just show you its website. So this is PyCharm website. I have provided all the link in the Moodle page, so don't worry about it. So click on download, and there are two versions that you can download. First one is professional, which is paid, but community version is free and open source. So you can download this and install. Okay, installation again is, see, installation. I'm not going to show how to install a particular application. Okay, because if it is complex, then I can show you. But these softwares are pretty easy. So you just download it, wait for the download to finish, double click, and then just keep on pressing next, next, next till you reach the end. Okay, so there is nothing much to show you uh, in installing it. Okay, but what I want to show you is how to use it. Okay, so this is PyCharm. Okay, so if I run it, this is how it looks. Okay, and this is what you have, right? So now I have already opened a file, main.py, which I have already created for the last batches. So here you can start writing your code. Let's say print. Now you can see now this ID is slightly different. Okay. Now this is extremely intuitive, and it does a lot of work for you. Like for example, after I wrote print, I opened the bracket and immediately it closed the bracket for me. Okay, so that helps me a lot when you write complex programs. You look at this one more time. If I open quotes, it also closes the quotes. Okay, so that is very good in case of such IDEs, because that saves us a lot of time. And many of the times what happens is because of such errors, uh, we forget to add close the quotes at the end, right? So that will create a problem, or it will create error when we compile it. Okay, so because of these IDEs, you don't have to worry about opening and closing the tags and opening and closing the codes. Okay, so let's do hello and save. Okay, once you save it, you can see at the top right corner there is a play button. Okay, so this play button is what make allows you to run this particular code. Okay, so if I click on the play button, you can see immediately, you don't have to go anywhere else. At the bottom side, you will see something opening, and there itself you will see the output hello. Right now, you can also run this program by right clicking on the code and just click on run. Okay, so if I do that, you can see it runs. Right, so this is how easy it is when you do it using PyCharm. Okay, another advantage of this is auto completion. Okay, so there are multiple options where, let's say, okay, so I have a string. If I do dot, you can see it shows me what are the options that I can do with this particular. So this is just to show you that there is type hinting, or function hints that are provided by this particular software. So this will help you a lot when you're learning, because it is not possible for a person to remember each and every command in the Python, right? So whenever you're learning, it is a good idea to use such editors, so that you don't have to remember each and everything, right? So every command syntax, it is not possible to remember everything. Okay, so this is PyCharm. Any doubts in PyCharm? Okay, so let's go to the next one, Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so let me show you what is Jupyter Notebook. So this is the Jupyter website. So now, to install Jupyter, now Jupyter Notebook is a very wonderful software, and you will see the advantage of it once I start the application. But first, let us see how to install it. Okay, now for installing, you are going to install it with the help of pip. Okay, now what is pip? So pip is the Python package manager. Okay, now usually, if you have ever used Linux operating system, then there is something called as apt. Okay, and what this apt does is, if you want any application to be installed in Linux, you just run apt space install space the name of the application. Okay, but in case of Windows, it is slightly different. You go to that website, download the exe, and then execute it. Okay, so that is how you install it in Windows. But in Linux and in many other programming languages, whichever programming language you think of, they all have a package manager along with it. Okay, so in case of Python, it is pip. It is called pip, Python package manager. In case of Node.js, if you have ever heard of Node.js, it is uh, npm. If you have heard about PHP, then it is Composer, the package manager. So like that, for every language there is a package manager available. Okay, so this, for in this case also, in case of Python also, pip is installed as soon as you install Python, right? So that means pip is already there on your computer. So now, to install any other software or any other library, we use pip for installing it. Okay, and the process is very simple. You just do pip, that is the command. Then you give the at no parameter, that is either you want to install or uninstall, or whatever you want to do, right? So I want to install, right? So the command is install space what you want to install, right? So I want to install Jupyter Lab. Okay, so all you have to do is copy this, go to your command prompt. Okay, and right click to paste it, and press enter. Okay, so if I press enter, that should install uh, Jupyter Lab on your PC. Okay. Once it is installed, next to run it, you can see below that itself, it is giving you the command to run it. So just copy that command, go to your command prompt, right click and run. So this will start a server and open a browser. Okay. So you can see I have opened my browser and click OK. So that will start the server. And this is how the server looks. Okay. So let me just delete with the code that is already there. So this is the Jupyter notebook. Okay. Now, now this is a completely, brilliant software, I would say, because, there is a slight difference between other IDEs that I have shown you till now and Jupyter notebook. Okay. The reason is these softwares are more used when you work with data science and machine learning. Okay. Now I will tell you why it is used like this. The reason is, let's suppose I write this code, print hello, and then if I run this, you can see I get print hello. Okay. So I can run a particular block of code directly. Okay. Select that block, click on run, and that gives you the output there itself. Okay. Below that, I can have another code, print world. And if I press play, that gives me the output below that. Okay. Now you may say, इसमें क्या खास है, right? खास बात ये है कि in case of data science and machine learning, uh, you know uh, let's say for example data science, in case of data science, you work with huge amount of data. Okay. So there will be like 10,000 records or million records that you want to first import, let's say from Excel to Python. Okay. And once you import that, then you can do operations on it, right? But the problem here is, because the data is huge, it will take a lot of time to import. Okay. So just imagine your first line is importing. Okay. Then your entire code is there. So whenever you run the program in some other editor, that, let's suppose the import statement requires 1 minute to import. Okay. So it takes, because the data is huge, it will take 1 minute to import the data, right? So every time you run the program, you will have to wait for 1 minute to get the output, because वो 1 minute तक import ही कर रहा है, right? That is where Jupyter Notebook comes into picture. Okay, so here you can separate the code, and you can put the input part, that is the thing that is taking a lot of time, in the above block, and then you can write the logic in the below block. Okay, and the best part is, you can run the blocks individually. Okay, so you can run the input block once, and it will be there throughout, and you can change the remaining block any number of times, but you don't have to run the input again. Okay, so that is the beauty of using Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so we will see this in much more detail when we go to the fifth chapter, that is the data science chapter. There we will be using Jupyter Notebook a little more in detail. Okay, so any queries in Jupyter Notebook? Okay. So that was the Jupyter Notebook. Now, next one is Google Colab. Okay. So now this is Jupyter Notebook provided by Google. Okay. So obviously, if you don't have a computer at home and you still want to use Jupyter Notebook, then you can use Google Colab. Okay. So here you can see it is almost the same. I have written a code. You can run it. Only thing is, it takes a little time to run, because it is sending the code to the Google server, then getting the output and printing it. Okay. So it will take a little time. Okay. So once this circle, rotating circle, is stopped, then you can see it. So now it's stopped, and now it has printed the output. Okay. So that is how this particular block works. Okay. So you can have another block just below it. Okay. And then another block just below it, and these all blocks will be different. Okay. So same like Jupyter Notebook, but only thing is it is online and it is free of cost, provided by Google. Okay. So that is Google Colab. Now, finally, as far as the IDEs are concerned, this is my go-to editor, I would say. So I am involved in many development works. So where I usually use Visual Studio Code. Okay, so VS Code, and I don't know how many of you have heard of this, but um, I do all my programming tasks in Visual Studio Code. So if you are also a person who uses Visual Studio Code, then Visual Studio Code is mainly used in case of web development, right? So you can just install it from here. You for installing, you just have to download the system installer. Okay, not the user installer. You download the system installer, install it, and once it is installed, you will see something like this. Okay, so in the program files, you will see Visual Studio Code, and let me open that Python file. Okay, and here it is the same thing, but this is mainly for web development, right? But it is a general purpose editor. Okay, so it can be adjusted to run any type of code. Okay, so that is why I'm going to show you next how to convert this particular Visual Studio Code into a Python IDE. Okay, it is very simple. You can convert this editor to any type of IDE. Okay, only thing you have to do is add an extension. Okay, so I've already provided you the extension that is required, that is Python extension. Okay, so you just go to Visual Studio Code. If you see this 4 square boxes, okay, on the left side, click on that. So this opens up the extensions window. Okay, so these are all the extensions that are there. So just search for Python, and the first one is what we need. Okay, so click on that and click on the install button over here. Okay, so I have already installed, that's why it is telling me uninstall, but in your case it will be installed. Okay, just click on it and that's it, you're done. Okay, so now what you can do is you can run your code. Okay, so let me show you how to run it. So write your code first, print. So you can see it is similar to PyCharm. It gives you all the hints and everything. Okay, so let's write hello. And to run this code, you just click on the top right side. There is a play button. Just click on that, and that's it. At the bottom, you will see your output. Hello, right? Any queries about Visual Studio Code? Okay. So now finally we are done with all the IDEs. Now it is possible that some of you do not have a computer at home, okay? And you just have a mobile phone, okay? So I will show you some online tools also, like first of all, online GDB. So this we have seen in C programming also. So this is a tool, a general purpose tool, which can be used for any programming language. So only thing you have to do is on the top right side, you have to select the language. So here I want to select Python 3. Okay, so I will select Python 3 and that's it. So my, let me just remove this. Yeah. So my code is ready. Okay. And if you want to run this, run, click on run, and that should execute the program. Okay, so that's very simple editor, online editor, so that you can use if you are using online tool. Okay, another tool is repl.it. So this is another tool. So here also you can create a Python file from here. I have already created one file. I will just open it. Okay, and once it loads, same thing, you write the code, press the run button, that should run the code. That's simple. Okay, so nothing great about REPL. So all these softwares are same. So another one is program is Okay, again it is the same thing. Here on the left side you write the code, press the run button, that should execute the code on the left. That's it, simple. Okay, now, so these are some of the online tools. Now what if you want something on your phones itself? Okay, so for that you can use, okay, so PyDroid 3. So as an app you can install this on your mobile phones, and you will have a IDE of Python on your computer itself. Okay, so that is a very good thing about this particular software. Okay, so we will be needing this. Okay, so basically each one of you should decide now which one to select. Okay, so all those who have a computer, they can select between PyCharm or Visual Studio Code. That is what I would suggest. And for those who do not have a computer, they can go for these online tools, or they can go for PyDroid. Okay, so anything, but you have to select something. Okay, so that is the bottom line. So any doubts still here, or any queries, any part that is not clear, just let me know. Okay, so it says there is no internal or external command for Jupyter Notebook application. Have you installed it? Omkar, have you installed Jupyter Notebook? You have to run the pip command and install it. And the pip command is available. Yeah, then Jupyter will not run directly. You have to first install Python. That will give you the pip command. Once you have the pip command, you have to run pip install Jupyter uh, notebook, right? And that will give you the Jupyter lab command. Okay, before that it will not give you. Okay, so you will have to reinstall it. I think you must have not installed the pip and IDLE. Okay, so you can just go next, and at the time where there are multiple checkboxes, by default it must be checked. Okay, so if it is not checked, just click on pip and IDLE, both of those things, and then click next. So let's open PyCharm. So I am using PyCharm. So here I am going to, uh, our task is to print hello Python, right? So for writing the first command that we have seen for quite a bit now is the print command. Okay, so the print command is used to print anything onto the command line. Okay, so you can see if I run this right now, it gives me hello on the command line. Okay, now it should be inside double quotes. Okay, if it is you can use single quotes also. Okay, so let me put single quotes. Okay, so I have replaced double quotes with single quotes, and if I try to run it, I get the exact same result. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you use double quotes or single quotes, your output will work. Okay, now the question is, then why is there two methods for doing the same thing? Okay, why not only single quotes, or why not only double quotes? Okay, the reason is, let's suppose I remove this, and if I put, okay, hello everyone. Okay, uh, at RCOE. Okay, so this is what I want to print. Hello everyone at RCOE. Let's print it. Okay, cool. So everything is working. But now what I want is, I want to uh, have double quotes in RCOE. Okay, so I want double quotes in RCOE. So let's try to put a double quote. So I put a double quote over here. Okay, so I want double quotes in RCOE. So now you can see what has happened. So this red squiggly lines means there is an error. Okay, so why is this error? Because you're opening the double quotes, and because the string itself has a double quote, it is also closing it. Okay, so it is opened over here and it is closed till here. Okay, but this is not what I actually want, right? I actually wanted a quote over there, right? So in this case, what you can do is uh, you can just do undo. Okay, and you can replace this quote by single quote, right? And you can see what uh, PyCharm does. As soon as I change one quote, it automatically changes the other one also. Okay, and once this is done, now I can put double quote over here. Okay, so now if I run it, you can see I get my string. Okay, now the reverse is also possible, that outside. Okay, so outside you have double quotes and you want to highlight RCOE with single quotes. Okay, so if you have outside single quotes, then you cannot use inside single quotes. Okay, so you have to use. So now no, the quotes, this quotes, which one you use is depends on inside what you have. Okay, so if in inside you have single quotes, then the outside should be double quotes. If inside you have double quotes, then outside should be single quotes. Okay, so you can automatically understand that once you get an error. Okay, so let me put a single quote over here and run it. So that works, right? So any doubts still here? Is it clear how to print something onto the screen? There are certain things also. So if you want to print on multiple lines, okay, so you can use print again. Okay, so when you have multiple print line, it goes on multiple lines. Okay, so let me just show you. If I run this, you can see hello everyone at RCOE and good. So now each print statement comes on a new line. So that is very important. But you can put this also on a new line just by putting \n. If you do \n and if you print, you can see hello everyone, then at RCOE is on a new line, then good is on a new line. Okay. So one last thing I would like to ask you, what if, so if I have a single quote inside my string. Okay, so let's suppose it is something like this. Okay, so everyone's, okay, so something like this. So what should be my outside quotes? Can anybody tell me? Should it be single quote or double quote?
If it inside one, then outside two. If
Yes,
it outside one, then inside two.
yes. So that is, so that I think you have understood, right? So now what if I have both? What if I have both? So what to do? अब इसमें क्या करेंगे? बाहर सिंगल लगाएंगे कि डबल लगाएंगे? Any idea by anyone?
Single shall think so.
Okay, so even if I put single, okay, so let me just replace this array. So this PyCharm does a little bit of, so even if I do single, it still gives you an error, right? Because if I do single, then this single is creating an error. This is not creating an error, right? But if I do double, then these two doubles are going to create an error, right? So how to tackle such kind of a situation, right? It is very easy. So if you have a single quote outside, okay, so if the entire string is inside a single quote, then whenever you find any single quote inside the string, you have to escape it. How to escape it? Just put a slash. Okay, so whenever you use a backslash, that means the next string that comes in is escaped. Okay, so whatever is its actual meaning, it is not the actual meaning. Okay, so this is how you escape it, right? So if I just do undo, and if I do, okay, so now it is double quotes. Okay, so now it is double quotes outside. So what should I escape? Can anybody tell me? I have to
At
escape, right? हाँ, क्या escape करूं?
at
या at को escape नहीं करना है मुझे. At के आगे पीछे जो quotes है उसको escape करना है, right? So I will escape this and escape this. Okay, ठीक है. So now वो error चले गया. Now if I run this, you can see I have everything perfect. Okay, so these things you should understand. Okay, so first of all, let us understand how to declare a variable. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Right, so to declare a variable, it is very simple. A equal to 10. Now when I do a equal to 10, that means basically this 10 is the value that I am assigning with the assignment operator to A. Okay, so A is the memory location where I am trying to store 10. So that is how you assign a variable, right? Okay, Mustafa. So now what happens is, no problem, no problem. So now what happens is you have a variable. Now, if you remember C programming, we used to do something like this, right? Int a equal to 10. But in Python, you don't need that. Okay, so you don't have to declare the type of the variable. You just declare it. Okay, you just assign the values. That's it. And as soon as you assign it, the type is automatically identified by Python. Okay, so that is the beauty of Python. So here, whenever you put something inside a variable, the type is automatically identified. Okay, so now here if you put a equal to 10, that means a type is integer because the value 10 is integer. If you put a equal to 10.1, now the type of variable a is float. Okay, because the value that you're assigning is a floating value, right? Point decimal value, right? If you assign a string, okay, then the type of the variable a is string, str, string. Okay, so now these are the three things that you may have already known. Okay, so there is integer, there is float, and there is string. Okay, so there are in C programming there are many data types, right? But here there are very few and very important. Okay, so first one is integer, float, string, and there is one more that is very important, that is boolean. Okay, so boolean means it is either true, so there can be only two values. It is either true or false. Okay, if it is false, you can just write false. Okay, now one thing to note over here is F and T. Okay, they are capital. Okay, if you do this, then that is incorrect. Okay, you can see the color has changed, right? That means FALSE, that is wrong. It should be capital F, false. Okay, or capital T, true. Okay, so now when you do this, you get a boolean. So A is now boolean. So I have shown you four data types. First is integer, float, string, and boolean. Okay, so these are the four data types that we're going to study first. Okay, there are four more that are a bit, advanced data structures that we will see in the next, that is next week. Okay, okay, So once this is done, now we want to print it. Okay, so now how to print? Uh, who is this? Adarsh. Adarsh, your print command, you are using arrows. Okay, less than and greater than sign. That is wrong. It should be round brackets. Okay, so what you are using is this, whereas it should be this. Okay. Okay, so now this is done, right? So we have defined a variable. Now how to print that variable on the command line? So again, the command is same, print, but instead of a string, now you're going to print the name of the variable. Okay, so if I do this and if I print, you can see I get false. So if I put 10 over here and if I run, I get 10. Okay, so I can now print variables through print command. Okay, but what if I want to print what is the type of the variable? Okay, so for that there is a function in Python which is called type. Okay, so I am having the type command, right? So type and the name of the variable should be the parameter, and inside whatever is the result, I'm printing it. Okay, so type of A, I'm printing. If I run it, you can see what do I get? Integer. So A is right now integer. If I change it to 0.1, 10.1, this should give me float. And if I make this a string, okay, so it is 10.1, but it is inside quotes. That means it should be a string, right? It doesn't matter what is inside. If it is inside a quote, that means it is a string. Okay, then let's say finally if I do true, so this is the fourth data type. So if I run, you will see bool. Okay, bool means boolean, right? So these are the four data types that you should know. Okay, so next, let me have, I have a variable called A, and I want to print this something like this. Okay, so what I want is this, this is RCOE. So this is what I want. Okay, so instead of RCOE, I want the name, whatever is stored in A. Okay, so whenever I run this, I'm getting this is RCOE. So if I change this to Shibu, and if I try to run this, it is still showing me this is RCOE. Why? Because मैंने string में कहीं भी A का यूज ही नहीं किया है, right? अगर A का यूज ही नहीं किया है तो चेंज कैसे होगा, right? So इसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? First of all, remove this RCOE. Okay, I removed this RCOE. Then you have to concatenate two things: this string plus the variable, right? Now to concatenate, the operator that we use is plus. Okay, so this plus A. So now what is happening? You are adding this string to A, right? So now if I try to print it, you can see this is Shibu. If I replace this with RCOE, if I run it, this is RCOE, right? So this is how you can concatenate two strings together. You can keep on concatenating again and again ahead. Okay, so if I do plus and if I open quotes again, it is the best. Okay, so I can do this, right? So you can see what I have done. So in between I have added A. Okay, so if I run this, this is RCOE, it is the best. Okay, so this is what I have executed, right? So this is how you can put anything anywhere in between. Only thing you have to do is add quotes. That means now this quotes should be the same that you have used to open the codes also. Okay, so that is one thing you have to take care. Okay, so like for example, if this code is single quote, then this code should also be single quote. Okay, so मैंने क्योंकि यहाँ पे डबल कोट लिया है, इसके लिए मैंने यहाँ पे भी डबल कोट लिया है. ठीक है, so that is one thing to note. Next, this is one way of doing it. Okay, another way of doing the same thing, I will show you the second way. Okay, now it is completely up to you which method to use. Okay, one thing to note, because we do a lot of programming and we have a habit, we always put semicolon at the end. Okay, but in Python we never put semicolon anywhere. Okay, so semicolon is not required. Okay, so print and we start the quotation mark. The same thing that I've done on top, I want to do it without the concatenation operator. That means without this plus operator, I want to do it. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, so all you have to do is this is, then you have to use comma, a comma, and the quotes, and you can say what is the statement, it is the best. Okay, so it is the best. Okay, so I have done the same thing, and if I run this, I'm getting the exact same output. Okay, but using comma. Okay, now one thing to note over here is I have not added that extra space over here, but it is automatically getting that space. Okay, मैंने डाला नहीं है ये, because whenever you use comma, you always the Python always adds an extra space. Okay, but जब आप plus use करते हो तब वहां पे space add नहीं होता है, तो वो space आपको डालना पड़ता है, right? So इसलिए मैंने दोनों जगह में space डाला है, but यहाँ पे देखो मैंने दोनों जगह में space नहीं डाला है, because मुझे मालूम है Python डालने ही वाला है, right? So one thing to remember, which one to use, it is completely up to you. If you are using comma, then take care of the space. If you're not using comma and if you're using plus, then you will have to add the space. Okay, any doubts still here? Clear? Eh? Okay, yes, so now you can see PyCharm is telling me that there is some issue. Okay, so this yellow line means it is not a serious issue, it is just a formatting issue. So what PyCharm is expecting is to add a space after, whenever there is a comma, you should add a space after it. Okay, so you can see now even if you don't add, it doesn't makes a difference, but it looks better if you add a space. Okay, so if you run this, the next thing that I want to show is how to take input from the user. Okay, so to take the input, the command is input. Okay, so whenever you do this, you ask the user to enter something. Okay, instead of you assigning it, you will ask the user. Okay, so let me show you. If I run this, so you can see it is waiting for something. If I add Shibu, okay, so you can see that Shibu got stored inside A, and now everywhere where you used A, it is replacing it by Shibu. Okay, so this is how you take the input. Okay, but this input is not looking that good, right? Because if I run this program, the user doesn't know what to do, right? It is just giving a blank prompt. Okay, so it is just waiting for something. What is it? Nobody knows, right? So that's why, let me show you how to add some feedback. Okay, so you can use inside input, you can put enter name. Okay, so I do enter name, and now when I run it, you can see now it looks much better, right? So now it is asking you to enter a name. So now I will write Shibu, press enter, and you can see now the program looks much better. Okay, so is it clear how to take an input? Any queries over here?
सर वो एंटर नेम नहीं है ना,
ये क्या आया
मतलब
ना?
मेरे को क्या लगा,
नहीं, एंटर नेम इज ओनली द प्रॉम्प्ट, वो वेरिएबल में स्टोर नहीं होगा, वेरिएबल में वही चीज स्टोर होगा जो आप एंटर करोगे, एंटर नेम स्टोर नहीं होगा, इट इज जस्ट अ प्रॉम्प्ट, it is just a hint given to the user, that's it. Okay, so if I just run, so if I do this and if I run, it is just asking, it is just giving you a hint that what you have to do. Okay, just imagine you have multiple things to enter, तो कैसे पता चलेगा कौन सा पहले एंटर करना है कौन सा बाद में एंटर करना है, राइट? तो इसके लिए ये प्रॉम्प्ट हेल्प करता है, राइट? सो नेम शिबू, so whatever you type that will come. Okay, इतना ही है कि नेम नहीं आएगा, ये जो आपने इधर इस कोड्स में डाला है ना वो कहीं स्टोर नहीं होगा, वो सिर्फ दिखाने के लिए है, ठीक है? जो आप टाइप करोगे वही स्टोर होने वाला है. इज इट क्लियर? सो राइट अ प्रोग्राम टू टेक इनपुट फ्रॉम द यूजर. We are taking two inputs. Okay, so name and age. Okay, so basically because there are two inputs, you will have to do write two times input command. Okay, so one will be for name and one will be for age. Okay, and after that you have to print the below line. Okay, so let me show you what is the line. So let's suppose you enter Shiburaj as the name and the age is at 33. Then what you should print on the screen is good morning, after that a comma, my name is, and whatever the name is entered. For in this example, Shiburaj is the name entered, so Shiburaj, and after that comma, I am 33. 33 is entered by the user. Okay, so that should come over here, years old, and full stop. So this is what you have to print. Okay, let's clear everything out. Now we are going to learn about arithmetic operators. Okay, so let's take two variables, A and B. So I've taken two integers, A and B, 10 and 3. Okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is C is equal to, I'm going to teach you all the different arithmetic operators that are there in Python. Okay, so the first operator that we're going to learn is addition operator. Okay, so this, what it does is A plus B. Okay, so A plus B should give you, that is 10 plus 3 should give you 13, right? So let us see what is the output. Print C and let's run it, and I get 13. Okay, cool. Now here one thing to notice, this plus has two meanings. Okay, it has different meanings for different types of data type. Okay, so for int and float, plus means addition, and for string plus means concatenation, मतलब joining. Okay, so अगर मैं इसको ऐसा करूं, okay, so what will be the value of A plus B? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me what will be the
10.
output? Huh?
10 plus 3.
सर 103 हो जाएगा.
103 हो जाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि
सर वो दो वेरिएबल हो गया ना सर.
ये स्ट्रिंग्स है,
मैं-
और स्ट्रिंग्स को जब हम लोग प्लस करते हैं तो वो कॉन्कैटिनेट होता है, एडिशन नहीं होता. ठीक है, तो ये कोड्स का डे डिफरेंस है. ठीक है, तो मैं कोड्स निकाल देता हूँ. तो स्ट्रिंग हो गया. अब स्ट्रिंग के अंदर प्लस का मतलब, सॉरी, इंटीजर के अंदर एंड फ्लोट के अंदर प्लस का मतलब होता है एडिशन, राइट? सो वो एक्चुअल में एडिशन करेगा. ठीक है, सो द सेम वे वी हैव माइनस, दैट विल बी फॉर सब्ट्रैक्शन. वी हैव मल्टीप्लिकेशन, right, 30. We have division, that will be 3.333333, right? And finally we have modulus, which gives you, when you divide, what is the remainder, right? So you get 1 as the remainder, because 3 divided by, sorry, 10 divided by 3 gives you quotient as 3 and remainder as 1. Okay, यहाँ तक सब ठीक है. So these 5 operators you already know from C also. Okay, C may be same 5 ऑपरेटर्स थे, राइट. बट पाइथन में देयर आर 2 एक्स्ट्रा. आई विल शो यू. सो द एक्स्ट्रा वंस आर double asterisk. Okay, so double asterisk means power. Okay, so power मतलब जो raise to करते हैं ना, ये करते हैं ना 10 raise to 3, वो जो raise to करते हैं वो उसको पाइथन में डबल एस्ट्रिक बोलते हैं. ठीक है, सो इट इज a raised to b, basically that is how you read this. Okay, so it is 10 raised to 3, so that should give you 1000. Okay, so usually in C we used to use math library, if you remember, and pow command, pow command use करते थे इसके लिए, but python में inbuilt ही है. Okay, so कोई library use करने की जरूरत नहीं है, right. And another thing is double slash. Okay, now double slash is for giving you the quotient. Okay, so if you do percentage you get the remainder, but how to get the quotient? So to get the quotient you do double slash. Okay, so you get 3 as the quotient. Okay, so now basically there are these 3 operators that are tied together, that is the division. This is a slightly confusing, that's why I'm specifying this. There is division, there is double division, and there is modulus. Okay, so this division is the actual division that we do. Okay, जो point में values आते हैं वो division है ये. Okay, जो second division है ये सिर्फ क्वोशिएंट देगा आपको, एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू नहीं देगा, क्वोशिएंट देगा. जब हम लोग डिवीजन करते हैं जो ऊपर क्वोशिएंट जो आता है सिर्फ उतना ही देगा, और ये सिर्फ रिमाइंडर देगा. ओके, so these are the 3 operators. Okay, so now the task, you're ready for task 3. So task 3 is very, very simple. For task 3 there is one more thing that I will teach you, but before that let me show you what is the task. Okay, so the task is to read 2 numbers from a user in single line. So this is very important, single line. Okay, so अभी तक हम लोग ने मल्टीपल लाइन से इनपुट कैसे लेते हैं वो देखा था, राइट. सो सिंगल लाइन से कैसे देखते हैं लेना है वो मैं आपको बताऊंगा अभी. ठीक है, सो टेक 2 numbers from single line and then print the result of operations in given sequence. So ये मेरा आउटपुट होना चाहिए, जो भी नंबर मैं दूंगा उसका आउटपुट ऐसा प्रिंट होना चाहिए. So let's say if 10 and 3 are the input, then 10 plus 3 is 13, 10 minus 3 is 7. ऐसा ऐसा करके ये सारे operations का आउटपुट डिस्प्ले करना है आपको. That's it, that is the program. Okay, so now here you can easily do this, right, but the problem is how to get the input. Okay, so let me show you, let me teach you how to do that. अगर अलग अलग लाइन में इनपुट लेना होता तो इजी था. Okay, so that would have been like this, right. इनपुट 2 बार इनपुट ले लिया, रन करो. सो फर्स्ट में मैंने 10 दिया, सेकेंड में मैंने 3 दिया, एंड क्या आया, अच्छा. So this is another problem that I will show you what is the error. So this is the thing, this is the way you can print the output. Okay, so let me just comment this out. Okay, so now one more thing, one more important thing that I want to teach you is how to comment a particular part of the code. Okay, commenting is also very important. Like for example, अभी मुझे ये चीज print नहीं करना था, इसके लिए मुझे इसको comment करना है, delete नहीं करना है, मुझे इसको comment करना है. So commenting के लिए hash is what you use. Okay, so you put hash in front of any line, that code is ignored. Okay, so that code is not run. Okay, and now I just want to show you what is a value of a. Okay, so if I run and let's say 10 and 3, you can see it prints 10. Perfect, right. So 10 तो print हो रहा है, then problem क्या है, error क्यों दिया इसने पहले, right. It was saying a divided by b possible नहीं है. Why it is not possible? a पे 10 है, if I try to print b, let's say comma b, let's print it, 10 3, 10 और 3 आ रहा है. प्रॉब्लम क्या है, राइट. प्रॉब्लम ये है, लेट मी ट्राई टू find the type of A and B. Okay, so type. Okay, दोनों का मैंने टाइप फाइंड करता हूं. ठीक है, लेट्स रन इट अगेन. So 10, 3. Can you see what is the problem here? A और B का टाइप क्या है? String. Even though I have entered 10 and 3, the type is still string. Okay, so this is the problem with input command. Okay, so इतना कभी भी याद रखना, input से जो आप input लेते हो, it will be always string. Okay, it will never be whatever you type. Okay, so जैसे कि यहाँ पे मैंने 10 enter किया है, that does not mean A में integer 10 store होगा. Integer 10 store नहीं हुआ है. क्या store हुआ है? String 10 store हुआ है. Okay, so now it is your duty to convert this string 10 to integer 10 before doing this operation, because ये जो operation आप कर रहे हो ना, ये किस पे होता है? Integer या float पे होता है, string पे नहीं होता है, right? So that's why when I run this, it was giving me error. Okay, so अभी कैसे convert करें? Input जो आ रहा है उसको string से integer convert करना है. कैसे करें? So for that there are different methods which is called as casting methods. Okay, so we have to do type casting. And what do you mean by type casting? Converting one data type to another data type. Okay, so मुझे string को integer में convert करना है, या integer को string में convert करना है, या float को integer में convert करना है, कुछ भी कर सकते हो आप, right? So अभी मुझे क्या करना है? Input क्या दे रहा है? String दे रहा है, उसको मुझे integer में convert करना है. So I will run the command int. Okay, so you can see what I've done. So input is giving me integer that I'm converting into int and then storing it in A. Okay, so let me show you. Just let me run. So 10, 3. Okay, can you see the difference? B को मैंने नहीं किया है, सिर्फ A को किया है. So A का क्या हो गया? Integer हो गया, और B अभी भी string है, right? तो दोनों को मुझे integer करना पड़ेगा, right? तो मैंने इसको भी integer किया. And now if I run this command, because A integer है, B integer है, तो अब मैं ये division वाला part कर सकता हूँ, right? So मैंने ये division किया, उसके बाद now I can run, I can print the output. Let's type. So let's say 10, 3, I get 3 as the quotient. Okay, any doubts? So I can use a plus operator also over here. If I run 10, 3, I get 13. Perfect. Okay, so any doubts still here? ये clear है? Okay, so इतना तक तो ठीक है. ठीक है, अभी मैं मतलब कोई भी डेटा टाइप को किसी में भी कन्वर्ट कर सकता हूँ. ठीक है, अब जैसे कि मुझे अभी इंट में नहीं करना है, मुझे फ्लोट में करना है, तो व्हाट आई कैन डू, इनपुट को, इनपुट इज स्ट्रिंग दैट इज फिक्स्ड, उसको मैंने इंट में कन्वर्ट किया. अगर मुझे उसको फ्लोट में कन्वर्ट करना है तो आई विल यूज फ्लोट कमांड. ओके, सो फ्लोट से क्या होगा, जो भी इनपुट आप दोगे उसको फ्लोट में वो ट्राई करेगा कन्वर्ट करने का. ओके, सो अभी इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप कोई किसी का नाम डालोगे और उसको फ्लोट में कन्वर्ट करने को बोलोगे, दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. दैट यू हैव टू चेक. ओके, बट इफ यू आर पुटिंग 10.6 समथिंग लाइक दैट अ फ्लोटिंग वैल्यू, बट इनपुट कमांड तो आपको स्ट्रिंग ही देने वाला है, राइट? बट आप उसको फ्लोट कमांड में दोगे तो वो फ्लोट में कन्वर्ट होगा. ओके, so that is very important. Now, so I have float. Okay, so A is float, B is float. What will be C? Can anybody tell me? Will it be string, will it be float, or will it be boolean? What will be C, value of C?
Float.
Obviously float, right? Because if A is float, B is float, दोनों का addition भी float ही होना चाहिए, right? So अपने को float मिलेगा, right? But let me see So if I want to write something like this, okay, so let me show you what I want to write. So I want to write, so let's suppose I'm entering 10 and 3, okay, so उसका मुझे addition लिखना है, तो मुझे ऐसा लिखना है 10 plus 3 equal to 13, right? So this is how I want my output, but instead of 10, 3 and 13, I want the actual numbers, okay? तो कैसे लिखूंगा मैं? तो यहाँ पे A आना चाहिए, यहाँ पे B आना चाहिए और यहाँ पे C आना चाहिए, right? तो ये कैसे लिखूंगा मैं? यहाँ पे A कैसे डालूं? So for that I will remove, I will remove 10, okay, and then I can let's say I can add A over here and do plus, okay. So what will happen is A का जो भी वैल्यू है वो ये पूरे स्ट्रिंग के साथ ऐड हो जाएगा, ठीक है, बिकॉज प्रोवाइडेड ये स्ट्रिंग रहेगा तो, राइट, बट ये स्ट्रिंग है क्या? लेट मी ट्राई टू रन दिस एंड शो इट टू यू. इफ आई रन दिस, so let's say 10, 23, and if I enter, can you see what is the error I'm getting? Can anybody tell me what is the problem? So the message itself shows you what is the problem, okay. So you are trying to use plus, that is absolutely fine, but on the right side you have string, and on the left side what is it? Is it a string?
No, it is fruit.
No, sir.
It is float, right?
Float.
You cannot add, sorry, you cannot concatenate a string and a float. That is not possible, right? So you need to have, when you use plus sign, okay, and one of the operand is a string, then the other operand should also be a string, okay. तो अभी ये तो है नहीं, अब ये तो float है, तो क्या करें? So उस केस में यहाँ पे अपने को कास्टिंग करना पड़ेगा, राइट, फ्लोट को स्ट्रिंग में कन्वर्ट करना पड़ेगा. कैसे करेंगे? उसका कमांड है str, ओके. तो अभी क्या हो गया? ए तो फ्लोट था, बट str कमांड में देने के बाद वो स्ट्रिंग बन गया. सो नाउ दिस इज स्ट्रिंग, this is string, so now I can use plus, okay. So if I run this and let's give 10, 3, and you can see I get 10.0 plus 3 is equal to 30, right? Similarly, I want to add b value over here. So क्या है b value? अब b value डालने के लिए मुझे 2 बार ये करने पड़ेंगे, क्या? कोट्स ओपन क्लोज करने पड़ेंगे, उसके अंदर 2 प्लस डालना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद मैं यहाँ पे b डाल सकता हूँ, ठीक है. So whenever you want to insert a variable inside a string, always remember open, close quotes and add 2 plus signs, okay. So that will add b. Similarly, for 13 also the same thing applies, but क्योंकि 13 लास्ट में है तो हम लोग को एक कोट और एक प्लस बचा सकते हैं, राइट. सो प्लस सी, जैसे हम लोगों ने ए के लिए किया था वैसे, राइट. बट अगेन दिस इज गोइंग टू गिव यू एन एरर. व्हाट इज द एरर? कैन एनीबॉडी टेल मी before I press enter?
String C.
Yes, again the same error will come, string ka error aayega, because b and c are still float. I have to convert it into string and string, and now it should give me perfect error, perfect output, okay. So 10.0, 4.0 equal to 14.0, perfect, okay. So agar integer hota तो 34, 56, you can see 34 plus 56 is equal to 90, perfect, okay. So everything is fine, okay. Now this is one option of doing this, okay. I will show you the second way and maybe you like the second way better, okay. So based on what is your what type of output you want to do, you can select which type of printf do you want to do, right. So the next method, the second method that I've already shown you, I'm just trying to put it over here. Okay, so let's run this and see what do I get. Now you tell me which one is better, this one or this one.
Comma.
The second one is better, right? But now you may have a question, सर फिर यहाँ पे हम लोग ने str कमांड क्यों नहीं रन किया, राइट? ये तो विदाउट str के ही चल गया, राइट? सो str प्रिंट कमांड के लिए str नहीं चाहिए. str क्यों चाहिए? बिकॉज ऑफ दिस प्लस. ओके, सो concatenation cannot happen if it is not a string. ओके, बट यहाँ पे कहीं concatenation कर रहे क्या हम लोग? नहीं, राइट? We are not doing concatenation over here. ये तो print का command ही है, right? So we are using directly the print command to join the statements and वो खुद ही space add कर रहा है, दिख रहा है? ये space मैंने add नहीं किया था, वो print command ने add किया. यहाँ पे कहीं space दिख रहा है आपको? मैंने add नहीं किया है, वो खुद add हुआ है, right? So that is the difference between this and this. Okay, so you may ask when to use which one. It is completely your choice. Okay, problem is sometimes this extra space that the print command adds that we don't want. Okay, जैसे कि हम लोग लास्ट एग्जांपल में देखा, किसी का तो स्टूडेंट का इसके अंदर उसने कॉमा यूज किया था तो एक्स्ट्रा स्पेस ऐड हो रहा था, राइट? सो अगर वो स्पेस नहीं चाहिए आपको तो यू मे हैव टू गो विद दिस मेथड. ओके, और अगर आपको स्पेस का कोई कंस्ट्रेंट नहीं है या स्पेस मैच हो रहा है प्रॉपरली, then this is much easier. Okay, so you don't have to run this str command to convert it into a string. Okay, so now इतना clear है? किसी को डाउट है यहां तक? Any doubts still here? So now the last part before you start doing the task is very important part, and the part is related to the task. Okay, so in the task I have written your input is you're getting in one line. Okay, और जबकि अपने प्रोग्राम में अभी कैसा इनपुट आ रहा है? दो अलग लाइन में आ रहा है, राइट? मतलब एक मैं 10 लिखता हूं फिर उसके बाद 3 लिखता हूं, तो उसके लिए तो दो बार इनपुट लिखेंगे तो वो इनपुट आ जाएगा, राइट? बट हियर इन आवर थर्ड टास्क आई एम टेलिंग यू स्पेसिफिकली दैट एक ही इनपुट यूज करना है. ओके, सो बेसिकली ये इस लाइन का मतलब क्या है कि एक ही लाइन में मैं इनपुट दे रहा हूं, उसका मतलब क्या है? यू हैव टू यूज ओनली वन इनपुट. ओके, so if you use one input, let me show you, let me remove this second line, let me remove everything and let's put input. Okay, so input मैंने लिखा and if I try to run it, okay, I cannot run this right now, so let me just comment this out. Okay, so ये सब मैंने comment कर दिया. अब मैं इसको run करता हूं and let's print A. Okay, so let's run this input 10 space 3. okay, not enter, space 3. so एक ही लाइन में मैंने दोनों इनपुट दिया. if I press enter, can you see in A I am having both the data. okay, 10 भी 3 भी, बट अपने को तो अलग अलग चाहिए. A के अंदर 10 होना चाहिए, B के अंदर 3 होना चाहिए. अब वो कैसे करेंगे, राइट? बिकॉज दोनों एक साथ डालोगे तो स्प्लिट करने का कोई चांस ही नहीं है, राइट? So that's why we have to use a new command. So whenever you have a long string and you want to split it somewhere, then you use the split command. So dot input के बाद dot करो और उसके बाद दिख रहा है आपको सारे functions आ जाते हैं. तो this is the beauty of PyCharm. It is showing you, you don't have to remember anything. You just select one, let's say split. Okay, and उसके बाद वो देता भी है कि क्या क्या है उसके पैरामीटर्स. ओके, सो स्प्लिट में आपको सिर्फ ये बताना है कि किस चीज से स्प्लिट करना है, राइट? सो हियर व्हाट इज आवर स्प्लिट कैरेक्टर? स्पेस. ओके, सो वी आर स्प्लिटिंग इट विथ स्पेस. तो आप अंदर जाओ, इसके अंदर कोट्स के अंदर एक स्पेस डाल दो, राइट? सो दैट विल बी योर स्प्लिटिंग कैरेक्टर. ओके, सो नाउ इफ आई ट्राई टू रन दिस, let's give 10 4 and press enter. Can you see the difference? अभी एक ही लाइन में आया है बट 10 अलग से है और 4 अलग से है, राइट? सो दिस इज द डिफरेंस. अभी आप पूछोगे ये स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट्स क्या है? सो दैट इज फॉर द नेक्स्ट वीक. So we will learn that in the next week, where we will learn about list, tuples and sets and dictionary. वो सब आएगा बाद में, तो तभी समझेंगे कि ये क्या है, right? But फिलहाल के लिए इतना समझो कि whenever I split, I can take the things separately. Okay, so 10 अलग हो गया अभी, 4 अलग हो गया. Okay, so let me run this once more and let's add few more variables. Okay, so I have added so many. If I press enter, can you see सबके सब अलग हो गए, right? Now let me run this again and let's say 34,56. Okay, so मैंने ये ऐसा किया, क्या लगता है स्प्लिट होगा कि नहीं होगा?
होगा सर, होगा।
होगा, चलो देखते, ट्राई करते, हुआ कि नहीं हुआ?
नहीं हुआ।
नहीं हुआ, क्यों नहीं हुआ?
डॉट स्प्लिट डाल के कॉमा।
Yes, exactly. The separator should match. Okay, so यहाँ पे मैंने क्या सेपरेटर डाला है? स्पेस. बट मैंने यहाँ पे क्या सेपरेटर डाला है? कॉमा. So that will not work. Okay, so यहाँ पे अगर मैं कॉमा डालता हूँ, you can decide the separator. Okay, so based on the application you can change whatever separator you want. So now if I run it again and let's say 10, 34, 56. Okay, so तीन डेटा डाला मैंने, एंटर करूंगा. कैन यू सी it is separated into 3 different parts. Okay, so the separator you have to decide, right? तो कैसे डिसाइड करेंगे सेपरेटर? आपका एप्लीकेशन देखो, राइट? इस एप्लीकेशन में सेपरेटर क्या है? स्पेस है, राइट? सो हियर आल्सो इट शुड बी स्पेस, राइट? नाउ once I get the space and if I run this, let's type 10 and 3, press enter. A, अब ये स्प्लिट तो हो गया, बट ए में तो सिर्फ 10 ही जाना चाहिए था और बी में 3 जाना चाहिए था. वो कैसे करेंगे, राइट? स्प्लिट तो हो गया, ठीक है, बट अभी उसको सेपरेट भी करना है, राइट? सेपरेट करने के लिए यू यूज द कॉमा ऑपरेटर. सो ए कॉमा बी. ओके, सो व्हेन यू डू दिस, जस्ट सी व्हाट हैपेंस. ओके, सो ये क्या होगा? ये 10 ए में जाएगा और ये 3 बी में जाएगा, राइट? सो लेट मी ट्राई टू रन दिस. लेट्स से 10, 3, प्रेस एंटर. कैन यू सी अभी सिर्फ ए में 10 आया. इफ आई ट्राई टू प्रिंट बी, कैन यू सी 10 अलग से आया, 3 अलग से आया, राइट? सो अभी मैंने इसको सक्सेसफुली स्प्लिट कर दिया है, राइट? तो ये कमांड से क्या हुआ, उसको मैंने स्प्लिट करके एक ही एलिमेंट में डाला है. स्प्लिट तो हो गया बट उसको सेपरेट नहीं किया मैंने, ठीक है? फिर ये कॉमा से क्या हुआ, वो सेपरेट हो गया 2 अलग अलग वेरिएबल्स में, राइट? सो नाउ आई कैन स्टार्ट डूइंग माय एडिशन, सब्ट्रैक्शन, जो चाहिए वो, राइट? बट स्टिल आई कैन नॉट डू वन थिंग. ओके, सो लेट मी शो यू व्हाट आई कैन नॉट डू. a प्लस बी. ओके, सो अगर मैं a प्लस बी करूंगा तो क्या होगा? वर्क होगा कि नहीं होगा? आपको क्या लगता है?
नहीं होगा सर, ऊपर ए कॉमा बी है।
नहीं, a कॉमा बी ठीक है. I can print A, I can print B, right? But can I do A plus B or A minus B or A multiply by B? क्या कर सकता हूँ मैं?
नहीं, ये अभी भी स्ट्रिंग है.
Yes, exactly. Very good. It is still string. So I cannot do addition, subtraction, multiplication. कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता because string के साथ वो सब नहीं कर सकते. तो पहला काम क्या रहेगा? So see, this is the sequence. First you have to split, then you have to separate, okay?
Convert.
And then you have to convert. So a equal to int a. इससे क्या हो गया? a को आपने int किया, फिर a में स्टोर कर दिया. फिर b equal to int b. तो अभी b को, b जो स्ट्रिंग था उसको int किया और b में स्टोर कर दिया, राइट? सो नाउ कैन आई डू a minus b?
Yes.
Yes, now I can do a minus b. Okay, so let's try it out. 10, 3. Perfect, right? So now only thing you have to do is you have to repeat this print statement for each and every operation. Okay, so that is the only thing you have to do. Okay, now one more thing to note. So I am using another variable C to do the operation, right? It is not actually required. You can skip this line and you can actually do the operation here itself. Okay, this is also allowed, right? So आपको एक another variable लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है, वेरिएबल कब लेते हैं, सी में कब स्टोर करना रहता है? When do we store something in a variable? Do you know?
इसका आउटपुट निकालना है।
When we want to reuse it. Okay, जब भी हम लोग को reuse करना रहेगा तब हम लोग उसको एक वेरिएबल में स्टोर करते हैं. बट हम लोग को यहाँ पे तो reuse करना है ही नहीं, एक ही बार तो प्रिंट करना है, राइट? तो अलग से वेरिएबल लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. बट अगर आपको लेना है तो लो, वो आपके ऊपर है. ठीक है. Okay, so I think whatever was required I have taught you. Now you can try this program.